Hey, what's up? Just making this video because I've been watching a bunch of TikTok videos and YouTube videos about this whole student loan situation, and specifically because I know yesterday they started accruing interest. I know a lot of people in the Save forbearance finally started accruing interest yesterday, and it just got me thinking about the whole student loan situation and the whole system, and whether or not it's even worth it, whether or not college has just become just like a giant scam, or whether it's even worth it to just to pursue higher education anymore. And I mean, personally, I still think it is. I think it's still probably a worthwhile endeavor. And I mean, obviously, I'm biased in that because I have a master's degree. I graduated with my master's degree last year, last last May 2024, and it's I mean, I guess college has kind of served me well. I know that doesn't speak to everybody's experience, but I think it just depends on how you approach the situation, on how you approach college, or how you approach higher education. Because I didn't do it perfectly, but at the same time, I didn't take out a whole bunch of debt to do it either. Like I kind of did it. Like I graduated, I finished my master's, I think, with 33,000, just a little over 33,000 of debt. And this was just a little over a year ago, and I've already paid it down to like 20. I think I owe 20,000 left. And it's been in forbearance this whole time, so I've still been making payments. But a lot of people just don't, I guess they don't, they see it as fake money or something, or fake debt they don't really have to worry about. I know you're young when you first take it on for the most part. Like I know my first student loans I took out at 18, maybe 19, and it was like I didn't think as deeply about it as I do now at 33, but it's but at the same time, I mean, you've got to kind of know what you're getting yourself into. I mean, it's like I first went to college fresh out of high school, and I didn't know what the fuck I wanted to do. Like I didn't. That's why I didn't stay around. Like I went for a year and I did okay academically. I actually got pretty good grades, but I realized I didn't know what the hell I was doing. I was like, I don't even know what I want to study. I don't think I ever declared a major when I was first there. And plus, I was ready to have some money in my pocket, so I said, "Fuck this," and I quit after my first year, and I went to go work at the factory, at a local factory, and probably one of the best decisions I ever made because I was not mature enough to go to college at that time, and I was 19 at this time, and I worked at a factory all through my 20s. Like I didn't leave until I was almost 30, and when I was about 24, I think. I didn't go back to college until I was 24. And I went to a local university. It was a small private Christian college that's not far from my hometown where I could commute to and from it. And they offered night classes. That's one of the reasons I did it, because they offered in-person night classes. And I remember I was like, well, I did pretty well in college when I was there before. I got pretty good grades. I'm going to go finish my degree. And I did, and I ended up going and taking night classes, and luckily I was in a position where I could commute, and ended up not having to take out a whole lot of debt to do it because I was still working full time. I was working full time at the factory during the day, and I was taking night classes, and I ended up finishing my degree back in 2019. I think, yeah, it was December 2019. I was 28 when I graduated undergrad. I didn't know much of anything because I was able to pay for so much of it out of pocket. Now, I know not everybody can do that because it depends on your station in life, where you live. Do you have access to resources and this, that, and the other? But then after I finished undergrad, started looking around for state jobs because I know that state jobs have like these amazing benefits, and ended up going to work for the state. And after being on with the state for a couple of years, I decided I wanted a degree that was more in tune with my field. And that's when I decided to go back and get my master's. And this was 2022 when I went back and decided to get my master's. And I just finished last May. And that was where most of my debt came from my master's degree. But like I said, it was only about 33,000. But I mean, the overarching point here is that like I don't know, I guess kids just need to, not kids necessarily, like you're young adults, like people need to know what they're getting into. Like when I was 18, fresh out of high school, I didn't know what the hell I wanted to do for the rest of my life. And I think luckily I was self-aware enough to where I realized that while I was like there, before I dropped 100 grand on my education, before I got too deep in the hole, I was like, man, I need to go live a little bit and get some real life experience before I actually dig, you know, 10, 20, $30,000 deeper into this shit. I think I already owed like 11 at that time. But one of the best decisions I ever made was going back and working, like, or dropping out after a year and going and working for 5, 6 years, well, it's more like 4 or 5 years before I decided. Because by that time I had grown up, I had matured a little bit, and I actually had a better idea of what I wanted to do. This is Lonnie. Hey, Lonnie. Lonnie, smile for the camera. He ain't smiling, but that's Lonnie. But anyway, I knew what I wanted to do. I ended up getting a pretty generalized undergrad degree. I got a business management was my undergrad degree, which is luckily pretty generalized to where you can use it to do a lot of different things, which it allowed me to get my foot in the door with a state job. So I can say that much for it. I also learned a lot of useful things in undergrad, like personal finance was a very important class, was a very useful class. Economics was a big one. Communications, all the different writing classes we took, learned how to make a portfolio. I got a lot of useful stuff out of my undergrad degree. So I'm not going to sit here and say college is worthless, because it's not. Like, I got some legitimately useful classes. Even the history classes I had to take as a part of gen ed. Like, I learned shit that I never learned in my history classes in high school or middle school or anything beforehand. So, I mean, it's important shit, you know? And then my master's degree, I don't regret my master's degree either, because that was the first time in my life. And I studied criminal justice. That was the first time in my life when I really studied something that truly interested me. You know, I'm a probation officer. And it's something that's always interested me. Criminology, sociology, psychology. I've always loved that type of stuff. And it was the first time in my life I actually got to delve into it at an academic level. So it was a pretty good. I mean, I don't regret my education at all. It is not a bad endeavor if you do it responsibly, and if you have like at least a small amount of foresight into how you want your life to unfold, you know. But it's just, I'm kind of rambling at this point. I've already given my life story pretty much, but my overarching point is that college is not a scam if you do it the right way. You know, I mean, I get it. The interest sucks. Student loans in general, they suck. But I mean, if you know what you're doing, it doesn't have to be a freaking life sentence. You know what I mean? It's like you can handle them if you do it smart way. You don't have to go to the fucking Ivy League to get a social work degree. You don't have to go to freaking, you know, half the time the Ivy League is pointless anyway, unless you actually meet somebody, network while you're there. Like, it's kind of like, I literally have seen videos of people that they went to like Harvard or Yale or Stanford, whatever, and you know, they never networked with anybody. They barely left their fucking dorm room. They crammed for 4 years and never met anybody, and then they had to go work at the fucking post office. You know, I mean, that shit really happens. Like, you just got a cost benefit kind of thing and know what you're getting out of it. And it's just, I don't know. Like, on one hand, I guess because it worked out for me, I'm kind of biased, but on the other hand, they really pushed it hard on our entire generation. You know, you need to go to college, you need to do this, you need to do that. And it wasn't just our guidance counselors and teachers, man. It was fucking media. Like, you look at any movie or TV show or anything from the 90s or early 2000s, and they just fucking glamorized college life, the experience, you know. And don't even get me started on, you know, your dream school, you know, just I mean, it's just kind of how they mapped life out for us. So they expected us to live it out this way. And we were expected that, you know, if we didn't do it the right way, then we were going to be totally fucking worthless and our lives weren't going to be worth living. That is a legit gripe that a lot of people with insurmountable debt have with the whole system, with how we were raised and how we were nurtured, guided, whatever the fuck you want to call it. Does that completely absolve us of common sense and, you know, just thinking like, oh my God, this is a lot of fucking money, I may, you know, have trouble paying this back? It doesn't, you know. I mean, you got to be able to go in with both eyes open. And if you can't go in with both eyes open, you probably have no fucking business being there. Common sense is a very underrated trait, even in academia. And a lot of people get into the academic realm without much common sense. And that's, I think, honestly, that's part of the fucking problem with the whole situation, society and education, why it's so expensive. I think a lot of it is that too many hands have gotten in the pot and too many people who had no business being there got in there and needed a job, and we needed all these extra administrative positions to give people jobs, and now it's just one giant bloated system. And I'm not going to go into all of this, but it's there. I mean, anybody who is familiar with the higher education and how it works in this country, you know exactly what the fuck I'm talking about. It's not an accident that every college out there has 20 or 30 fucking deans, when that's another topic. But anyway, I just wanted to give my insight into the whole student loan situation. And I don't know. I hope that people who are struggling, and there are a lot of people who are really struggling. Like, there are a lot of people with 6 figures of debt who they have no way of paying it off. Like, I mean, it's one of the things I was talking about earlier, like the social work degree. I hate using that as an example because social work is actually a very important profession. I work with them in my field. Like I said, I'm a probation officer. We could not do our job without our social workers. They're fucking brilliant. They do a lot of good work in the community. But I mean, you don't have to go to Harvard or Stanford or even the big fancy state school. You can go to do your first 2 years at community college, and then go to a local state school, the most local you can find anyway, or find a small local private school like I did. There are affordable ways to do college, and 9 times out of 10, what you want to do is available within reasonable means if you know where to look. But it sucks to see so many people struggling and really having no way out. Like, they don't have any shovel to get out of it because, like, these loans are not bankruptable. I mean, well, they technically are if you can prove financial hardship, but you're not getting them bankrupted. So I mean, you're pretty much stuck with them until you pay them off or they get forgiven. And I'll be honest, I don't trust forgiveness. I really don't. I don't think any of these forgiveness programs are legit. I think the government dangles them out in front of us like a fucking carrot, just like that SAVE plan and the $10,000 or $20,000 forgiveness that Biden tried to do. I get it. I'm sure it was well-meaning, but I don't trust. At the end of the day, you sign the fucking dotted line, they're going to get their money. I mean, that's the way loans work in any field, whether it's student loans or mortgage or car loan, whatever. But anyway, I'm going to stop rambling now. That is my take on the student loan situation. Just hit me up in the comments. Let me know what you think.